Good morning. If you could find your seat, we'll start here. Well, my name is Dan Langen. I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs at Bismarck State College, and it's my pleasure to be able to introduce our presenter for this breakout session. I need to elevate my enthusiasm based on Michelle's earlier comments, so I'll do my best on that. So I get to introduce Michelle today, and she's been such an advocate for North Dakota. I'm super excited to be here to do this. And so a little bit about Michelle. Michelle Kommer serves the citizens of the state of North Dakota as the Commerce Commissioner. Prior to being appointed by Governor Doug Burgum to serve on the cabinet in 2016, Michelle worked for more than 20 years in the private sector as a senior executive leading human resource, operational and legal functions in the financial services, health insurance, and energy manufacturing industries. Very diverse. She's a lifelong learner and licensed attorney and self-professed work process geek, always seeking to understand how things work. She was named one of the top 25 women in business by Prairie Magazine in both 2014 and 2015. Michelle is highly attentive to North Dakota's workforce needs. It was her work with the Workforce Development Council that recommended the transition of BSC to a polytechnic institution, a directive that the state board actually moved forward last year. Dr. Scogan, our president, tells me that she's allowed him to bend her ear often in the past few years, and all of us at BSC appreciate her ability to see the connections between higher education and the economic health of North Dakota. So it is with my pleasure that I get to welcome North Dakota Commerce Commissioner Michelle Kommer.
I appreciate it. Well, good morning. Thank you for choosing. Yeah, do that again. Good morning. Good morning. Woo! Thank you for choosing this session today. This is a really important topic for all of us. The topic of the discussion today is the 21st century workforce, and as you know, 21st century workforce is one of the 3 pillars of the Main Street Initiative. I get to sit back and listen today a lot like you will. I want to bring up to the stage right now some really important people. Before I do that, I want to recognize the Workforce Development Council. You may know that North Dakota is fortunate to have a group of passionate volunteers, civic leaders, members that represent organized labor, individuals with barriers to the workforce, and of course our state partners. There are 32 members of the Workforce Development Council that volunteer their time to help North Dakota address our workforce challenges. So if you are a member of the Workforce Development Council, would you please stand up? Thank you for your service. All right, well, joining me today to moderate a panel is Perry Lubbers, a member of the Workforce Development Council. Perry is a retired executive with Trail King Industries. He was the vice president. I always want to call him the president because he's the president to me, the vice president of operations. So join me, Perry. You can take the far seat. And also, I want to thank Don Schilling. Don is also a member of the Workforce Development Council. He's the chairman at General Equipment, which I know my own daughter's name, but I get nervous sometimes too. All right, so Don is the type of individual who, when he speaks, you have to listen because every time he contributes, there's something really valuable that's about to happen. I was talking to Don about this panel today, and I said I really want to tell the story about the abundance of great jobs available in our state that are high-tech, high-skilled jobs that one would pursue after achieving a 2-year degree or another credential. And Don said, I have an idea. How about you have the people that walked that path tell the story instead of you? So I give credit to Don for this idea, and with that I want to introduce 2 individuals who who are taking time off from their jobs to join us and tell their stories. So if you would join me on the stage, Brock Walker is an E&I tech with Midwest Ag Energy. Thank you for being here today, Brock. Sit next to Perry. And then also Mitch Strelo is the Smart Equipment Manager from General Equipment. Thank you for joining us today. All right, well, before we get to hear from these fine gentlemen, I'm going to walk through a few statistics because I like statistics. Like Dan said, I'm a business process geek. I like data and charts and numbers. In fact, I'm just going to tell you a story that I think is kind of funny. I was in an argument with my 19-year-old daughter, and it was getting kind of heated, and there was some of this coming out. And I said, first of all, and the 13-year-old daughter behind me says to her 13-year-old friend, uh-oh, watch this. She's about to crush her with facts and charts. So apparently that's my tell. First of all, so I have some facts and charts that I would like to share with you. One of the things that I learned that I did not know when I started studying North Dakota's workforce challenges 3 years ago with the fine members of the Workforce Development Council was the type of jobs that we have available in North Dakota today and the abundance of high-tech, highly skilled jobs that are available here that can be achieved, as I said earlier, with a 2-year degree, an associate's degree, or some other technical program, which oftentimes can be paid for by an employer or some other financial assistance where you graduate from that program and you come out to make a really exceptional salary. And we have some information to share with you today about some of these comparisons. Before we move on, I also want to make it extremely clear that I am not doing a commercial for 4-year degrees versus 2-year degrees. What we want to do today was just simply share with this audience the reality of the jobs that are available in North Dakota and the different pathways that are available to get to those jobs. As a mother of 3 daughters, now a freshman in college, a senior in high school, and then of course a 13-year-old, before I came to work in this job and began to study the workforce opportunities in this state, I believed in a paradigm. I believed that my daughters had to go get a 4-year degree to get a, air quotes, good job. And that's the paradigm that we want to talk about today because we believe that it's a paradigm that needs to be reconsidered. So, changing the conversation. So this first chart is about the rise of the bachelor's degree. And you can see, if you can't literally see because the numbers are small, that since the 1940s, the number of bachelor's degrees that have been achieved in our nation have expanded significantly. And there was a time when, and it was true, that that was because our jobs became more sophisticated, more technical, less manual labor, and there was a time when we identified our students by their cognitive skills. And we said, these kids with these types of cognitive skills should go get a 4-year degree. And these kids with these types of cognitive skills should take another path. And I want to tell you, because I know it to be factually true, that that paradigm does not exist anymore. And until 3 years ago, when it became part of my job to understand that, I did not know that. Today, and these gentlemen will share with you, we have jobs that we attain that are high-tech, high cognitive skills that occur in workplaces that are as sparkling clean as any office space or financial institution that we can imagine. And there's a belief by some, and this included me until 3 years ago, that we were still thinking along the same lines that we used to think about. So, the number one reason to go to college. When asked by a Gallup poll why they attend college, students said, well, to get a good job. A different Gallup poll of just college freshmen supported that. A very important reason for getting an education is to get a good job, a 4-year degree. So there is this belief, according to those studies, that you have to go to a 4-year school to get a good job. Who's influencing that? Well, there are a lot of different influences in terms of how students decide where to go to school, why to go to school, and what to pursue. And we're going to get to hear from these gentlemen today about what influenced their decisions. But, of course, there's money. Of course, there are social influences. There's marketing by schools and universities and programs. There are parents. It was very dismayed to learn that we're like number 4 on the list of influences. Employers. Employers are very important in this process too. And then just the intellectual challenge. This is what a survey reported when it asked students what their influencers are when they decided to go get a 4-year degree. We also, oh yeah, that's why my parents thing bounced, because I just couldn't believe that. For those of you with children, the study that reported this also reported that we're far less influential in a number of other matters too. And I say that, with some disappointment and some jest, but it matters who your kids are speaking to. And I hope that after today that you can leave here with some new ideas and share those with your students. All right, so the degree premium, there has been a belief, and it has been supported by research and studies, that when one graduates with a 4-year degree, that there are economic benefits associated with that stick with a person for their entire life. But we now know that degree premium is being challenged. Why is it being challenged? Because the price of college has gone up faster than the price of all other goods and services, that student loan debt is at an all-time high, 1.48 trillion, and that's about a year-old statistic. Technology and automation are available for everybody to learn today, resulting in students with bachelor's degrees sometimes having to take lower-level jobs. Globalization and technology have changed the way that organizations operate, but it doesn't make a 4-year degree a guarantee for a career anymore. And the hype and the push towards the 4-year degree, or the parental influence, as in my case, has increased the cost, making consumers wonder if it's worth the effort. As I said earlier, the point that I want to leave you with before we turn it over to the experts and the people that have lived this experience is that the labor market is changing. And I want to leave you with a term that I didn't coin. It doesn't belong to me. But we used to think of things in terms of blue-collar and white-collar jobs. And instead, today, we really live in an environment where there are blue-collar jobs, there are white-collar jobs, and somewhere in the middle and is what I call the gold-collar jobs. And again, I didn't coin that term, but a gold-collar job is that job that you can get after attaining a 2-year degree, an apprenticeship, a credential, a high-tech skill that gives you this pathway to one of the great jobs that these folks will tell us about here today. So with that, I'm going to leave the data and the charts aside, and I'm going to turn it over to Perry, who's going to ask our panelists some questions. But I really hope that as you're sitting in the audience that you can think of some questions too, because as I said earlier today in a radio interview actually about the Main Street Summit, we've been listening very intently for the last 3 years to the voices of our youth about what they want our communities to look like, about what things that they demand and insist upon were they to stay in this state, and I think that's something that we can all rally around. So join me in welcoming these fellows, and look forward to your questions when we're done. I'm just gonna sit by you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Michelle. Again, thanks, Brock and Mitch, for being here this morning and answering a few questions for us. But the first question we have for you is, what influenced you in your career choice? So, Brock, why don't you start out for us?
I'd have to say that I am an electronic technician.
Hold it really close. There you
Okay,
go.
can you hear me?
There you go.
I'm an electronic technician at Midwest Ag Energy Group, the Blue Flint Ethanol location in Underwood. And electronics has always been kind of my go-to thing. I tinkered with electronics when I was younger, tearing stuff apart, not being able to put it back together. But so I knew that was something that could be in my future. As I got closer to my adult, middle school, I knew that that was something I'd like to pursue. Got into high school and found that there was electronics classes available at the Career and Tech Center at BSC that I could take during my sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school. So I enrolled in those classes every year, took those, and I gained, that's where I gained most of my, beginning knowledge of electronics, along with advanced knowledge that would lead me towards knowing kind of at this point in time that I wanted to pursue a technical degree in the electronics program. Wasn't sure exactly what part of the electronics yet, but I started searching around high school year, during high school and senior year, I should say, and noticed, actually was looking at out-of-state colleges at first, because they're, at BSC, they had some tech courses available, just didn't find the one that I was looking for until kind of towards the middle of senior year, and they came out with the instrumentation and control technology course. It's a 2-year Associate of Applied Science degree, and that really interests me. It was their first year. Didn't bother me at all that it was their first year, so I decided that at that point in time I was going to go down that degree path. So I took that degree in college, and I was actually able to articulate, basically use my 3 electronics courses I had in high school to get out of my first year of college. So I was able to start right in the second year of the program, which enabled me to, graduate within a year with a 2-year degree, and I was able to get out in the workforce within a year after high school. So that's the reason I kind of went down that path. And I can't say, I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I went through a couple jobs, moved to Williston right away, right out of high school. Liked what I did there, just decided to go down a couple other paths, did another job in between, and now I am working here. Been with Blue Flint Ethanol for 7.5 years now, so don't plan on really going anywhere anytime soon. So I really do enjoy my job right now, so I can't say enough about just kind of following, what you want to do and going down that path.
I think it's important to note too, Brock, that you graduated with cash in hand, correct?
I did. We were talking earlier. I wasn't one to think about how I was going to pay for school. Actually, I never really had thought about that part. So coming to BSC, I was kind of, the parental push a little bit, not for a 2-year degree, but for scholarships and grants. My mom was pretty big on that. She said, "Why don't you try?" So I did try. I got enough scholarships and grants to actually pay for all of my schooling, so I came out debt-free in a year with a 2-year degree and was able to start, 1 year after high school in a, high-tech job, good paying, good benefit job right out of college. So I, kind of missed out on the college life, which I wouldn't go back on for anything. All of my friends, got to visit them while they were in college, 3-4 years in college, and I had been working in the field for 3 years already, so okay, I wouldn't trade that.
Okay, thanks, Brock. How about you, Mitch?
Well, what influenced me kind of goes back on several layers and years all the way back to when I was a very young kid. Well, first of all, I grew up in a family where my dad doesn't even know what end of a wrench to grab a hold of. So to look up to him and ask him how to fix something or what to do, that was the wrong guy to be asking to begin with. But my grandpa, he was a very avid car collector back in the day, and I always remember going out to his shop, and even though I had no idea what I was doing or even what tool I was grabbing, I just remember being out there with him and the joy it brought when a car wouldn't start and we were able to get it going. Or he was also big into woodworking, and we'd go out to the shop and figure out what we wanted to build today, and we built it. And there was a lot of satisfaction that came with it. So that kind of started the influence, is to knowing the direction I wanted to go, but where and what industry I wanted to be in, I wasn't 100% positive. I got into college. I took a class called Power Systems, taught by Ron Streit at Fargo South, and it went over everything from solar power, wind power, working on gas engines, small gas engines, and just kind of everything together and putting it together, how it comes apart, the proper terminology. And that really kind of triggered something in my mind that I really enjoy this. And I was able to then go into Auto 1, Auto 2, welding, machining, and construction. And I just tried everything out. And I had a blast doing it. And through all these classes, I realized that I got a lot of friends going into welding, a lot of friends going into machining and auto, but I didn't have anybody that was really excited about diesel. And I started learning more about it, worked with my teachers in school, and found out I really had kind of a passion for it, with some guys and having a diesel pickup myself in high school, being able to work on it. And so I chose to go to Moorhead Tech to be a diesel technician. And in school there, I had some phenomenal instructors who also taught me, pushed me, and drove me to be a better person and a better technician in the field. And so all those things kind of built up into me being a technician. And I worked through the technician field at several different industries with trucking, construction, agriculture, and actually working at a Ford dealership as well. But what I found is I always kept being the young kid going to the older technicians, the more experienced guys, and they were always the go-to. And that's what I thought to myself, I want to be the go-to guy. And that truly is where I was like, all right, I want to specialize in something. I want to be very, very good at it. I want to be the one the customer calls. I want to be the one the younger techs call. The one anybody calls, I want to be that guy. And kind of changed my career path from a technician in the field, working in the field and getting dirty every day, to a management role with general equipment and managing our smart construction team. And that is taking on any new technology in the construction world, and then also the machine control, which if you guys ever see machines working in the field, you might see globes on them or special antennas. And I don't know how else to explain it without going really in depth. But those machines now, other than you pointing them in the direction you want to go, they cut grade. And it really blows a lot of people's mind on that we can do that with these machines. And I'm finally in that role where I am the go-to guy. And I get to kind of set the path that I want to go down. And then I also get to help customers better their job site and better their profits that they make.
Well, thanks. One of the things, I'm getting a little bit off course here a little bit, Michelle, but one of the things that I think that came through from both of your experiences here, guys, was the fact that you had some CTE experience in high school. And it helped you gain that knowledge and reinforce what you wanted to do with your career. With that being said, what do you like most about your job today, Mitch?
Well, kind of going back where I'm the one that gets called to a job site to either help them solve a problem, job site specific or machine specific, is the satisfaction of leaving that job site or leaving that machine knowing that when I showed up, it didn't work. It was holding up a job site, it was holding up our customer, and when I left, they're up and running, they're making money, and I am the reason for that. And that is just an absolute unreal experience every single time I get to do it.
How about you, Brock?
I guess what I like most about it, I guess I wouldn't say most about it, but I do enjoy my whole job as a whole. I get to go to work and I kind of get to do the same thing as what Mitch does. I started out 7.5 years ago at this company, and about 2 months after I started, the gentleman that was training me had quit. So it was me. I was the guy. I was the go-to guy. The only electronic technician we had at the facility, and I pretty much got to learn by trial and error, which was okay, fast learning pace, and I became that guy that I had the same kind of feeling as Mitch did. Someone comes to you with a problem, yeah, they're kind of breathing down your back. You can get it fixed, you can get it running, and you feel that the gratification of that. But what I also like as well is, I didn't want to move away from Bismarck, North Dakota. So I don't know, most of my friends did, but it seems like they're all coming back now. So it seems like I think they just wanted to get away for a little bit and try it out, but most of them came back. But I didn't want to get away, so I was able to, I grew up in Bismarck, was able to stay in Bismarck, and I just commute to Underwood every day. So that is another big part that I do enjoy, is that I can stay here, my family's here, I can go to work, come home, see my family, or I can come home and just do what I like to do. And then also with, with Blue Flint Ethanol, they started in 2007, so they're pretty, they're a newer company. We're always growing, always trying to keep up on new technology. You have to stay in this business. So I do like that. I get involved in that a lot to keep the plant tip-top shape and keep running so we can supply ethanol for fuel.
What would you gentlemen share with students today?
I guess if I'd have to say anything to students would be to not think about it so much. You probably know what you want to do deep down. You might not know exactly. You might have to try something out to figure out that you don't like to do it, but you probably know you follow your dreams. That's what I did. I went through two places of business, before I got to this one where I'd like to stay for long term. But going to those two places, it wasn't going backwards by any means. I worked at them for a year. I found out what I liked about it, found out what I didn't like about it, kind of molded what I wanted to do for, we'll say, most of my life here coming up for the next 30 years, and found a job in North Dakota that I was able to work at and be there long term. And I see, there is a future at my job too. That's one thing to look forward to is, maybe I don't want to be the guy fixing things, turning wrenches, climbing ladders for 30 years, but maybe in 20 years I can move up in the company, and there is always that, so I'll always keep that on the, back of my mind to look forward to, but for now I'm just gonna keep chugging away and enjoy what I do. And the jobs here in this state or around this state, even just right outside our our borders, are no in North Dakota are really, really good. I interviewed for quite a few places or applied at quite a few places around here. Some of them didn't get, which might have been for a reason. I am where I am for a reason, so I do enjoy it. So I just say follow your dreams, you know what you want, and don't be afraid to take chances and go in a place that you maybe don't feel comfortable with.
How about you, Mitch?
Well, what I would have to say is, and I heard it several times when I told my parents what I was going into, and some other family members who are all four-year graduates, and I am the first of it to go to a two-year school, is don't turn a hobby into a career. I don't know how many times I heard that, and I kept telling them, but this is what I love to do. Why would I not want to do that every single day? And so I guess my absolute short, sweet message would be, if you have a hobby you enjoy, and maybe you won't make a boatload of money doing it, but you'll have a good time doing it, is do it, and go to school for it. And I guess that would be what it is, because that's what I did, and I every day enjoy what I do.
Okay, thank you. I think now, Michelle, we open up for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do that, I want to give just a little bit of background on how we got here today. I mentioned the Workforce Development Council. That group of people worked hard to put together a report of recommendations for the governor in October of 2018. And what we did as a group is we worked hard to understand what North Dakota's specific workforce challenges are. Because as all of you know, we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation, one of the highest labor market participation rates in the nation, and we're not alone. We're in a national, if not global, competition for workforce. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't walking down a path of solving any old problem. We wanted to solve the right problems. And what we learned through the work that we did together as a council is there were really 5 themes for our workforce challenge in North Dakota. The gentlemen sitting here are part of the solution for at least 2 of them. The 5 themes were a technical skills gap. We have a technical skills gap. There's a space between where our students are today, what they know about the opportunities that are available for them in North Dakota, the pathways to get them there, and then the connection to industry or to the employer. And Don and Perry are working with their companies to connect those dots, but we need to do that on a much broader scale. A second theme is very related, and it's called awareness, career awareness for students at an earlier age. And I'm going to point to Wade Sick, who's in the audience. He's the Director of Career and Technical Education here at the state of North Dakota. And the work that Wade is doing to expand CTE programming in our state is crucial to addressing that challenge. You heard both of these gentlemen say that they had experience with CTE classes in high school, and we're suggesting that that awareness needs to happen even earlier than high school, and it's because of that experience that they were connected to the jobs that they now have. The third theme is also related. This will surprise absolutely none of you. I see some of my friends and colleagues from healthcare in the audience. We have a nursing shortage. We've had a nursing shortage for 25 years. What's new about the nursing shortage is that it is more acute because of the baby boom. More nurses are retiring today than ever before, and then the rest of us are getting older at the same pace and requiring more care. It's more significant in our rural areas. But what we learned through that process, we knew there was a nursing shortage. What we learned is that there's also a significant healthcare technician shortage, which goes back to theme 1, technical skills gap. My colleagues in healthcare tell me, even if I solve the nursing problem, I still can't open my critical care hospital, my emergency room, without a medical diagnostic imaging technician, without an x-ray technician. So those jobs are critically important to North Dakota, to the vibrancy of our communities, in particular our small communities. The fourth and fifth themes were addressing the barriers to employment that some North Dakotans experience. We do have people, even though we have the highest labor market participation rate in the nation on most months, we still have people in North Dakota that aren't able to enter the workforce for a number of reasons. They could be because I'm an individual with a disability, or they could be because North Dakota's occupational licensing laws make it not easy for someone to come across the border and work in their chosen profession. So that's something that we're also caring about and paying attention to. And then finally, the fifth theme also will not surprise you. You heard the governor say earlier that there are more jobs available in our nation than there are people to do them. That is true in North Dakota as well. So we call that fifth theme the 3 R's. We need to recruit new North Dakotans. We need to retain the North Dakotans that we have. And then the third R isn't a word, but we sort of made it one, and we call it the returners. Like Brock was saying, we have people leaving our state. We need those people to return, because we believe that it is much more possible that we're successful in getting people to come back to North Dakota who are from here, who are familiar with the beauty and the benefits of living here, that have family, that have connections. And so that's a little bit of background about the work that was done and that kind of led to this conversation. So on that note, or because we have these special folks here that have this lived experience, what questions would you have in the audience? Come on, this is your opportunity. In the back, stand up and speak loud.
So during the course of your education and the development of these skills that have allowed you to get these kind of jobs, did you face any difficulties or barriers that you feel like public agencies or community development agencies can help address to help these like smaller communities attract folks like you, or to promote education in their own communities? Were there any barriers or difficulties that can be addressed?
Super. So I think, were there any barriers? Did anything get in your way? What got in your way on your path?
I don't know if I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but I know some things that I have kind of kept in touch with my professor from my college degree over the years that I've been out of college, and I know that there wasn't any like online portions to my course, and I know that, so not necessarily barriers, but I know they have overcome that. They do offer like all the labs and stuff for my course online, where they can, or do the the bookwork online, and they can be in a small community or a different town, and then have to maybe come up for a certain amount of time and do their labs if that's required. So I know that has helped, and I've heard that has helped over the years for people that can't move or don't want to move to Bismarck just to go to college. They can continue their education where they are currently.
Excuse me. The only barrier I can really think of came when I was applying for jobs when I was in high school, knowing the industry I was going into, and then in the middle of college while I was in tech school, the economy kind of went down and I was laid off and looking for my internship to fill my summer between my 2-year school. Was that a lot of places were looking for technicians with a 2 or 5 year experience. And I found that almost everywhere I went, that was the kind of people that every dealership or every company was looking for, and it made it very difficult for me to find a job in between my 2 years of school. And then what I ended up doing was basically telling someone, I understand you're looking for someone with 5 years of experience, but take me on and train me to be that guy with 5 years of experience right now. And I think that was probably the hardest thing that I had to face, was just what the type of people that they were looking for. And now I know it's changed a lot. General equipment's huge with it, and bringing in young kids in high school and in college and training them to be that person that you're looking for the long term throughout their entire career.
Secondly, Mitch, I'm really curious if you're wondering if that idea of changing minds about what a 2-year degree can mean from a career perspective, if you've been able to do that with your family and friends, and just any thoughts on how to do that or what's happening with that. I think we're seeing it, but for BSC, we're sure interested in that conversation.
So I had to initially change my parents' minds. And that, I wouldn't necessarily say it was difficult. It was a conversation we had to sit down and have at the dinner table. And the hardest part about it was their lack of understanding of careers that are out there for it, and the possibilities. I didn't even go to school that long ago, 10 years ago. And everyone thought, like in my family, I shouldn't say everyone, that to make good money, to have a good living, to be able to support your family, you had to go to that 4-year school. And I had to give them evidence and proof, and I had a couple colleges actually instructors come in and sit down with my parents and tell them, that this is an industry that's growing, and it's only going to continue to grow and need people in the future. So I guess the biggest thing was just opening my parents' eyes to the world of outside of a 4-year degree. Did I answer the whole question? I heard a little bit of it, yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
So as a follow-up question, what can the state do to provide resources so that you don't have to work that hard to change your parents' mind? It sounds like you actively grabbed instructors, they came in and they were your advocates to get you that. But how can we make that job easier for people like yourself?
No. Well, I think it's happening now is getting businesses and colleges into high schools and talking about it and opening up kids' eyes to outside of that degree or outside of that 4-year degree. I know it happens a lot. We do it a lot at General with Ann, but it's getting out there and just making kids aware. But one thing I did know, I do notice, and maybe this is something you guys could work on, is all the schools and businesses that came to talk to us in our auto class, in our welding class. They didn't come talk to us in a larger group. So the kids that maybe didn't even, that don't think about this industry, maybe they weren't even aware of the possibilities or the career opportunities outside of the classes that they were taking in high school, or maybe in extra activities.
But to Wade's point, how do we educate the parents better on what opportunities exist?
I can speak maybe a little bit. I know I know younger kids, they probably talk to their parents a lot more about their days at school versus a middle school or high school kid. I know one thing that our company has done is done a career and tech day where we bring in grade schoolers, so young kids and teachers. And I wasn't there this year for this one, but I believe the parents can come with. And we do out at our facility, we run them through a basic what we do. They can see what the industrial facility looks like, see some of the stuff we produce and make, and they don't have much questions, but they like to look around, and I think that would get the parents out and knowing as well as if you get them, like Michelle said, at a younger age than just high school and maybe even middle school. We're bringing the grade school kids in that are pretty young, and that might help.
Super. Other questions? Got one over here.
So I know that we have some tuition debt forgiveness in North Dakota. Which one of those apply to 300 degrees? And then also, do we have anything in place for incentives for companies to maybe have a entry-level training department to give, or that for their college to give them a reward or incentive of some form to create jobs for the youth to keep them in the companies?
Great question. I think I can take that one, unless someone else wants to.
Well, what I would say is there's companies out there that offer scholarships that we just have to make young people aware of, right? General Equipment, Trail King, basically we're offering full ride scholarships for anybody that wants to go to a tech school. But we just have to make young people aware of those opportunities, at least from an employer side.
Yeah. Well, and I'm really excited that you asked that question because last legislative session, House Bill 1171 passed. And what that is it's the legislature has dedicated $6 million from the general fund to encourage students to take the technical career pathway. And here's what that looks like. $3 million of that was dedicated to what they call a scholarship fund, and $3 million of that was dedicated to a loan repayment fund. The requirement for use of that money is that you have to partner with an employer like Trail King. And the employer has to put in a one-to-one match. So let's use a real-life example, and let's pretend it's Mitch and that he didn't go to a Minnesota college. I'm teasing you.
That's fine.
And so Mitch is in high school, and General Equipment is recruiting him because they know that he's interested in this line of work. So General Equipment works with the university, the college, the technical program, and sign up. We call it Career Builders. It's actually available on Job Service website. There's a link to it on the Department of Commerce website. There's a link to it on the university system. There's a link to it, and most likely on every North Dakota university you would find it if you Googled Career Builders. And so for Mitch, what that looks like to him in the scholarship lane is that his school is paid for. And Mitch's obligation is to stay in North Dakota and work here for a minimum of 3 years. So I wouldn't be able to share with you right now today all of the programs that qualify, but I can tell you two things to look for. One is that degree program has to connect to what the Workforce Development Council has identified as an in-demand job in North Dakota. And that list is also available on the Job Service website, on the Commerce website. So the degree program has to connect to an in-demand job. And then again, to access the information for how to apply and the process, you would have to find that same information in one of those two places or the university system. So I always say, if you leave with one thing today, that's great. If you leave with two things, that's better. 3, that's super in 45 minutes. And I hope today that this conversation has accomplished these 3 things. One, that if you weren't already on the journey of a paradigm shift, like I wasn't 3 years ago, that tells us that you do not have to go get a 4-year degree to get and this was a title of a presentation a few years ago, a good job that pays without a BA. Those jobs are available here in North Dakota. As Governor Burgum always says, every job today is a technical job. every company today, no matter what your line of work, is a technology company. So start on your journey through that paradigm shift if you haven't already started on it, and then leave knowing about the Workforce Scholarship Loan Repayment Plan, and leave being willing to share your ideas with state and university partners, with grade schools, and with industry about how we can raise this level of awareness about the real great jobs that are available here in North Dakota and the opportunities that we have, so that our youth will make the same choices that Brock and Mitch made, and that great employers like General Equipment and Trail King, and that list goes on and on and on, are making to keep this state vibrant and dynamic and healthy. So before we close, are there any other questions that anyone has?
Michelle, to this young lady's question, one of the greatest loan repayment programs we have in this state is, there's some individuals standing right in this room, and I did it for a while, and that is the North Dakota Army National Guard. If people are truly looking to stay in the state and get loans forgiven, get repayment, tuition repayment, serve their citizens, is, I can't think of a better scholarship program out there. And I was recruited for the North Dakota Army National Guard. I went to the Creek Station, came here to and I look at what those citizens are contributing just to this state. And I think that's something that the state needs to promote in a whole different way. And when I was a recruiter, my biggest frustration was, when I was in school, is exactly what you're dealing with. Because I had career counselors in the high school, and all they would promote is 4 years of school. And I would always say, most of these students are better served going to a traditional 2-year technical college. Not all of them, but we should promote that too. And that should be coming from, to that young man's question over there, how can the state help? I think in the education area is, the counselors need to get that word out to these young folks also.
Yep. No, thank you for that point. And as you noted, we have members of our military here today also experiencing a workforce shortage. So that's a great point. Thank you for making that. All right, any other questions? All right, well, please join me one more time in thanking Dawn for the idea, Perry for asking some great questions, and Mitch and Brock for taking a day off from work to share their story today. Thanks, guys. And thanks to all of you for joining us.